Have you ever wondered if your thoughts could change your life? Welcome to Serenity Path, where we explore the profound teachings of Buddhism and how they can transform our lives. In today's video, we're diving into the incredible power of positive thinking in Buddhism, the role of mindfulness, and the deep connections between our thoughts and our reality. This isn't just another self-help video, this is a journey into reshaping your mind and your life. We'll explore the wisdom of some of the most transformative figures, like Nelson Mandela and Oprah Winfrey, showing you how their mindsets not only shaped their lives but also changed the world. Make sure to stay with us till the end, because we'll also be sharing practical Buddhist tools, like mindfulness and meditation, that can help you overcome negativity and embrace inner peace. Don't forget to hit subscribe and drop a comment if you've experienced any shifts in your mindset. Let's dive in and unlock the power of your thoughts. 1. The power of positive thinking in Buddhism. In the modern world, we often hear the phrase, positive thinking, thrown around as a way to approach life's challenges. But in Buddhism, positive thinking is more than just an optimistic outlook or a technique to stay happy. It is a profound practice, rooted in the understanding that the mind shapes our reality. The Buddha, over 2,000 years ago, taught that how we perceive the world is ultimately how we experience it. Our thoughts are not simply abstract, fleeting ideas, they are powerful forces that shape the way we react, interact, and engage with life. Take, for example, a well-known figure like Nelson Mandela. Throughout his life, Mandela faced unimaginable struggles, spending 27 years in prison, enduring hardships, and witnessing the oppressive system of apartheid in South Africa. Yet, even after his release, he chose to focus on reconciliation and forgiveness, using his mind to cultivate compassion and strength. His ability to forgive his oppressors and lead with a positive, open mindset transformed not only his life but an entire nation. This is an embodiment of the Buddhist principle that our thoughts shape our actions and our reality. In Buddhism, the power of positive thinking is not about denying the challenges that we face, nor is it about pretending that everything is perfect. It is about training the mind to see things clearly, without attachment or aversion. We are taught that when we direct our thoughts towards kindness, wisdom, and understanding, we transform the way we experience the world. We are not victims of our circumstances, we are the architects of our experience. Ask yourself, what does it mean to see the world clearly? Are you viewing your life with the lens of judgment and fear, or are you able to look beyond the surface of things? The Buddhist practice of right thought involves training our minds to be free from the cycles of negative thinking and to recognize that our emotions, though real, are impermanent. In a world constantly bombarded with external stimuli, it's easy to fall into the trap of believing that our happiness or suffering depends on outside events. However, Buddhism reminds us that true happiness arises from within. It is not something to be pursued externally, but something to be cultivated by the way we think and react to life's events. This is why mindfulness, an essential practice in Buddhism, is so critical. Through mindfulness, we can learn to become aware of our thoughts, and more importantly, we can learn to choose the thoughts we nurture. A practical example of this in modern life is Oprah Winfrey, who has spoken extensively about the power of gratitude and positive thinking in shaping her life. Despite growing up in poverty and facing significant hardships, Oprah chose to focus on gratitude and the positive potential in every situation. Her success is not just a result of hard work but of her deep commitment to transforming her thoughts and cultivating a positive mindset. She embodies what Buddhism teaches, that our thoughts have the power to create our reality. By focusing on gratitude, compassion, and wisdom, she transformed her personal narrative, proving that we have the ability to change our experience by simply changing how we think. But how do we start practicing positive thinking according to Buddhism? The first step is recognizing that every thought we entertain plants a seed in our consciousness. The more we focus on negativity, the more that negativity grows. Similarly, when we focus on thoughts of kindness, gratitude, and compassion, these seeds begin to bloom into positive actions and emotions. This is where karma comes into play. Karma, in its simplest form, is the law of cause and effect. Every action, whether mental or physical, creates an imprint on our mind, influencing our future thoughts and actions. If you dwell on negative thoughts, you are planting seeds that will eventually bear fruit in the form of suffering. But when you train your mind to focus on positive qualities such as gratitude, patience, and kindness, you create a more peaceful, harmonious inner world. This principle is not just abstract philosophy, it's practical. Take a moment to reflect on the quality of your thoughts today. Do you often find yourself consumed by frustration, fear, or resentment? Or do you find joy in simple things, express gratitude regularly, and approach challenges with a sense of calm and understanding? The beauty of Buddhism is that it encourages us to take responsibility for our own minds. What we think, we become. But it's not enough to simply acknowledge that positive thinking is important. Buddhism offers practical tools to help us train our minds, one of the most essential being mindfulness. Mindfulness allows us to become aware of our thoughts without becoming attached to them. It helps us to observe our mental patterns and gently redirect them. Instead of reacting automatically to every negative thought or emotion, mindfulness allows us to pause, reflect, and choose our response. This is a powerful tool for reshaping our mindset and living with greater clarity and peace. For example, Ellen DeGeneres, known for her positive attitude and humor, often talks about the importance of mindfulness and being present. She has shared how she practices gratitude every day, focusing on what she's thankful for, rather than what's wrong. By training her mind in this way, she has cultivated a positive outlook that influences not only her personal life but her interactions with others and the broader public. Now, consider the following question: how often do you find yourself dwelling on negative thoughts, replaying old regrets or anxieties? Buddhism teaches that these thoughts are not permanent, they are like clouds in the sky, passing through our minds. If we can learn to simply observe them without identifying with them, we create space for peace and positivity. We learn that our thoughts are not who we are, they are just temporary mental events that can be allowed to pass. The next time a negative thought arises, instead of saying, "I am anxious," you can say, "Anxiety is arising." This shift in perspective frees us from the control of our emotions, allowing us to respond with wisdom instead of reactivity. Buddhism also teaches us that by cultivating a mind of loving kindness, metta, we can transform not only our thoughts but our interactions with the world. Loving kindness is the practice of wishing well for all beings, starting with ourselves. When we focus on love and goodwill, we shift from a mindset of fear and judgment to one of compassion and understanding. This practice helps us to not only think positively but to act positively, creating a ripple effect in the world around us. In conclusion, the power of positive thinking in Buddhism is not about forcing happiness or pretending to be something we're not. It is about understanding that our thoughts have the power to shape our experience of life. By practicing mindfulness, cultivating loving kindness, and consciously choosing thoughts of gratitude and wisdom, we can transform our inner world, and in turn, the world around us. Reflect on your own life. Are you shaping your reality with thoughts that bring peace and positivity, or are you feeding negative patterns that create suffering? The power to change is within your mind. By simply choosing to practice positive thinking, you can begin to reshape your life in ways you never thought possible. 2. The role of mindfulness in cultivating a positive mindset. Mindfulness is one of the most essential practices in Buddhism, often described as the foundation for cultivating a peaceful and positive mind. But what exactly is mindfulness? In its simplest form, mindfulness is the practice of being fully present and aware in each moment, without being overwhelmed by thoughts, emotions, or external distractions. It is the ability to observe our thoughts and feelings with clarity and without judgment, to truly see things as they are. In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to get caught up in a whirlwind of thoughts. We constantly replay events from the past or anxiously anticipate the future. The mind races, and we often feel as though we are simply reacting to life rather than actively participating in it. This is where mindfulness can be transformative. By becoming aware of our mental habits, we gain the ability to change them, to pause before reacting, and to choose a response that is rooted in wisdom rather than emotional reactivity. Consider someone like Steve Jobs, whose journey in creating Apple was deeply intertwined with mindfulness. Jobs was known for his ability to focus deeply on the task at hand, whether it was designing a new product or refining an idea. He practiced a form of mindfulness that helped him stay present, allowing him to make clear, focused decisions even in high-pressure situations. His ability to center himself in the moment was key to his success, both professionally and personally. The Buddha taught that our minds are like a garden, and our thoughts are the seeds we plant. If we constantly allow weeds of negativity, worry, and fear to take root, our minds become cluttered and chaotic. But if we practice mindfulness, we can become conscious gardeners, observing our thoughts as they arise and choosing to let go of those that no longer serve us. This mindful observation creates space in our minds, giving us the freedom to nurture thoughts that lead to peace, joy, and wisdom. This brings us to the central practice of mindfulness, awareness of the present moment. Many of us spend much of our lives either regretting the past or worrying about the future, leaving us little time to appreciate the present. Buddhism teaches that the present moment is where true peace resides. The past is gone, and the future has not yet arrived. All we truly have is now. But how often do we allow ourselves to fully experience the now? How often do we get lost in thoughts, missing out on the richness of the present moment? Take the example of Oprah Winfrey once again. She often speaks about her practice of mindfulness and presence. She has shared how she takes moments throughout her day to simply breathe, to center herself, and to be aware of her surroundings. Whether she's having a conversation or walking through nature, she makes a conscious effort to stay grounded in the moment. This practice has allowed her to maintain balance in the face of immense pressure, showing that mindfulness can help anyone navigate even the most demanding situations. Buddhism reminds us that life is fleeting, and we are often too caught up in our thoughts to notice the beauty around us. A simple yet powerful way to practice mindfulness is breath awareness. By focusing on our breath, the natural rise and fall of each inhale and exhale, we anchor ourselves in the present moment. It's one of the simplest forms of mindfulness, yet it's incredibly effective. In times of stress, anxiety, or overwhelm, focusing on the breath allows us to reconnect with the present and calm our minds. Have you ever noticed how, when we're anxious or upset, our breath becomes shallow and erratic? The breath is a direct reflection of our state of mind. But by bringing attention to the breath, we can influence our mental state. Slowing the breath down naturally slows the mind, creating space for calm and clarity. One of the most powerful tools mindfulness offers is the ability to observe our thoughts without identifying with them. Imagine the mind as a vast sky and your thoughts as passing clouds. Just as clouds come and go, so too do our thoughts. But instead of getting caught up in them, believing that they define us or that we are our thoughts, we can simply observe them without judgment. When we recognize that thoughts are transient, we no longer feel controlled by them. This is a profound shift. Many of us identify with our thoughts, especially negative ones. If we feel anxious, we might think, I am anxious, or if we feel angry, I am angry. But Buddhism teaches us that these thoughts are not permanent. They are temporary mental events, like clouds in the sky. When we observe them as such, we can let them pass without being overwhelmed by them. Consider Barack Obama, who has spoken openly about the power of mindfulness in his own life. Throughout his presidency, Obama faced immense pressure and criticism. Yet, he maintained a calm, composed demeanor. One of the reasons for his calmness was his practice of mindfulness. He learned to focus on the present moment and not be consumed by the negative thoughts and emotions that arose in response to challenges. Instead of reacting impulsively, Obama practiced mindfulness to pause, reflect, and choose his responses wisely. This is the essence of mindfulness in Buddhism, not reacting, but responding with clarity and wisdom. Another powerful aspect of mindfulness is its ability to help us transform negative emotions. When we become aware of our emotions, whether it's anger, fear, or sadness, we can make a conscious choice not to react in a way that perpetuates those emotions. This is where mindful observation becomes crucial. When you feel anger rising, for instance, instead of acting on it immediately, you can pause and observe it. "I notice anger arising," you might say to yourself. This simple shift allows you to distance yourself from the emotion, giving you the space to choose a more skillful response. For example, if someone cuts you off in traffic, your immediate reaction might be anger. But if you practice mindfulness, you can pause, breathe, and notice that anger is arising. By observing it without identifying with it, you give yourself the chance to let go of that anger, rather than letting it control your behavior. This is the power of mindfulness. It creates space between stimulus and response, allowing you to choose a more peaceful and thoughtful reaction. This process of transforming emotions through mindfulness is a key aspect of the Buddhist path to peace. Mindfulness helps us develop the clarity to see our emotions for what they truly are, temporary and impermanent. When we recognize the transient nature of our emotions, we stop clinging to them, and we begin to cultivate a deeper sense of peace and equanimity. Through mindfulness, we also develop an appreciation for the present moment. So often, we rush through life, caught up in tasks and goals, without taking time to appreciate the simple joys around us. Buddhism teaches us that true happiness is found in the present moment, not in the future or the past. By practicing mindfulness, we learn to notice the little things, like the warmth of the sun on our skin, the sound of birds singing, or the taste of our food. These simple moments, when fully appreciated, are the essence of joy. Mindfulness, in essence, is the key to cultivating a positive mindset. By staying present, observing our thoughts and emotions, and responding with wisdom rather than reactivity, we can transform our inner world. And as we transform our inner world, we begin to see the world around us in a different light, one filled with peace, clarity, and understanding. The question to reflect on is this: how often do you give yourself the space to be present in your life? In moments of challenge, do you allow your thoughts to control you, or do you take a step back, breathe, and observe them with mindfulness? By practicing mindfulness, we have the power to change not just our thoughts, but the way we experience life itself. 3. Meditation, transforming the mind. Meditation is one of the most profound practices in Buddhism, offering a pathway to mental clarity, emotional balance, and deep inner peace. It is not just a method of relaxation. Meditation is the transformative process of training the mind to cultivate positive states of being. Through meditation, we gain control over our thoughts, emotions, and perceptions, allowing us to shape our reality with intention and mindfulness. In modern society, meditation is often associated with relaxation, stress relief, or personal development. However, in Buddhism, meditation is much more than this. It is a sacred practice designed to bring us closer to the true nature of our minds, helping us achieve a state of awakened awareness. The Buddha himself practiced and taught meditation as the key to ending suffering and achieving enlightenment. It is through meditation that we learn to see reality clearly, without the distortions of attachment, aversion, or ignorance. Consider the life of Deepak Chopra, a well-known spiritual teacher who has frequently spoken about the transformative power of meditation. Chopra credits much of his personal success and clarity of mind to his meditation practice. By cultivating inner stillness through daily meditation, he has gained the ability to navigate life's challenges with greater wisdom, peace, and presence. His teachings emphasize that meditation is not about escaping the world but about returning to a deeper connection with it, which resonates with Buddhist principles. At its core, Buddhist meditation is about mental cultivation, or bhavana. It involves training the mind to focus, to be present, and to develop positive qualities such as compassion, equanimity, and mindfulness. This process is not something that can be achieved overnight, nor is it a one-time event. It is a lifelong journey of transformation. One of the most fundamental practices in Buddhism is mindfulness meditation or vipassana. This practice involves observing the breath, bodily sensations, and thoughts with full awareness. The goal is not to force the mind into a state of quietness but to observe whatever arises without judgment. By observing our thoughts and sensations without attachment or aversion, we develop a clearer understanding of their impermanent nature. Have you ever noticed how quickly our minds can become cluttered? The moment we sit down to meditate, a flood of thoughts, worries, and distractions seems to emerge. This is perfectly natural. The mind is often like a turbulent sea, with thoughts arising like waves. But through meditation, we learn to sit calmly on the shore, watching the waves without getting swept away by them. This is the power of mindfulness. By observing without attachment, we gradually quiet the mind, allowing clarity and peace to emerge. A powerful example of this can be seen in the life of Thich Nhat Hanh, a Vietnamese Buddhist monk and peace activist who was known for his teachings on mindfulness and meditation. Thich Nhat Hanh often spoke about the practice of being present with each breath. He taught that every breath could be an opportunity to return to the present moment and let go of distractions. This simple act of mindful breathing is a cornerstone of meditation in Buddhism. Through it, we learn to reconnect with the present and experience life as it truly is, not as we imagine it to be. But how does meditation transform the mind? It's a question worth contemplating. What happens when we learn to sit quietly and observe our thoughts without reacting to them? The answer lies in the process of mental purification. As we meditate, we begin to notice patterns in our thoughts, how certain thoughts trigger emotional reactions, how the mind clings to certain desires or fears. Through this awareness, we can begin to break free from these habitual patterns and responses. Meditation gives us the space to choose our reactions, instead of simply reacting on autopilot. Take a moment to reflect. How often do you act impulsively based on your emotions? Buddhism teaches that these impulsive reactions arise because of deep-seated attachments, fears, or desires. Through meditation, we can begin to untangle these attachments, allowing us to respond to life situations with wisdom and compassion, rather than fear and reactivity. Another transformative aspect of meditation is loving-kindness meditation, metta bhavana. This practice involves cultivating feelings of goodwill, compassion, and love, first towards ourselves and then towards others. By repeating phrases such as, "May I be happy, may I be free from suffering," we begin to open our hearts, releasing the barriers of judgment, resentment, and fear. For example, the Dalai Lama, known for his profound wisdom and compassion, often speaks about the importance of loving-kindness meditation in his own practice. His ability to remain calm and compassionate in the face of adversity is a direct result of his daily meditation practice. By regularly focusing on cultivating loving-kindness, he has trained his mind to respond with compassion rather than anger or fear, regardless of the challenges he faces. Loving-kindness meditation is not just about wishing others well, it is about transforming our minds so that we naturally respond to the world with warmth, understanding, and care. As we practice metta, we gradually soften our hearts, and the negativity and judgment we may hold towards others begins to dissipate. Meditation also has the power to transform our perceptions of suffering. In Buddhism, suffering is an inevitable part of life. But meditation teaches us how to approach suffering with equanimity. Rather than resisting pain, whether physical or emotional, meditation allows us to observe it without becoming overwhelmed. By sitting with discomfort, we learn that suffering is not permanent and that we have the capacity to endure and transcend it. Take the example of Eckhart Tolle, a spiritual teacher known for his teachings on living in the present moment. Tolle has spoken openly about how his own experience of profound suffering led him to discover the practice of mindfulness and meditation. Through his meditation practice, he learned that suffering is not something to be avoided, but something that can be transcended by simply being present with it. This insight is at the heart of Buddhist meditation. By accepting suffering as a natural part of life and observing it without attachment, we free ourselves from its grip. One of the most beautiful aspects of meditation in Buddhism is that it helps us develop the quality of impermanence. We come to realize that all things, including our thoughts, emotions, and experiences, are fleeting. This realization helps us to stop clinging to anything, whether it's a desire for success, wealth, or recognition. We learn that happiness is not found in external circumstances, but in the way we approach each moment. Meditation trains us to see the transient nature of all things, allowing us to live more freely and with less attachment. In the end, meditation is not just about quieting the mind, it's about transforming the mind. It's a practice that allows us to break free from our habitual ways of thinking and responding to life. Through meditation, we cultivate clarity, compassion, and wisdom, leading to a life that is not only peaceful but also deeply meaningful. Reflect for a moment. How can meditation help you transform your own mind? Are you willing to sit quietly with your thoughts, observe them without attachment, and allow the clarity and peace of meditation to transform your life? By committing to a regular meditation practice, we create the foundation for a positive, peaceful, and awakened mind. The path is simple, but the transformation is profound. 4. Compassion and loving kindness, the heart of positive thinking. In the teachings of Buddhism, compassion and loving kindness are not merely abstract concepts, they are the very heart of the path to inner peace and enlightenment. They are the foundation of positive thinking and are deeply intertwined with how we approach the world and our relationships with others. Buddhism teaches that to cultivate a positive mindset, one must first cultivate compassion for oneself and others, and loving kindness is the natural extension of that compassion. But what does it truly mean to practice compassion and loving kindness? Compassion, known as karuna in Buddhism, is the ability to recognize the suffering of others and respond with genuine care and understanding. Loving kindness, or metta, is the practice of wishing all beings well, including ourselves, with a heart full of goodwill. These practices are transformative because they shift our focus away from our own needs, fears, and judgments, allowing us to engage with the world in a way that is both mindful and full of warmth. Consider the example of Mother Teresa, a modern-day figure who epitomized compassion and loving kindness. She dedicated her life to caring for the poorest and most vulnerable people in society. Mother Teresa's ability to serve others, not out of obligation but out of genuine love and compassion, transformed not only the lives of those she helped but her own life as well. Her work was rooted in the Buddhist concept of compassion, responding to suffering not with pity but with a profound sense of connection and care. Buddhism teaches that true compassion does not mean pity. It means recognizing that suffering is a shared human experience and responding to it with an open heart. It's about seeing suffering in others and meeting it with care, without being overwhelmed or consumed by it. In a world filled with pain and conflict, compassion is the balm that heals the wounds of both the individual and the collective. Loving kindness, or metta, is the practice of wishing others happiness and freedom from suffering. It begins with oneself, as we cannot extend love to others if we do not first love and care for ourselves. This self-love, however, is not selfish, it is the foundation for loving others. When we develop loving kindness toward ourselves, we begin to see ourselves with compassion, understanding our flaws and imperfections as part of the human condition, not as reasons for self-judgment or hatred. A wonderful example of loving kindness in action can be found in the life of Mahatma Gandhi, who promoted nonviolence, ahimsa, and peace throughout his life. Gandhi's teachings emphasized the importance of loving all beings, even those who opposed him. He believed that through nonviolent actions driven by loving kindness, lasting change could be achieved. His unwavering commitment to love in the face of adversity is a powerful reflection of the Buddhist teachings on loving kindness, seeing beyond the surface, and loving not just those who are easy to love, but even those who seem to oppose us. In Buddhism, the practice of loving kindness involves repeating simple phrases such as, "May I be happy, may I be free from suffering," and gradually extending these wishes to others, friends, acquaintances, neutral people, and even those with whom we have difficulties. It is a powerful and transformative practice that shifts our energy from negativity to positivity, from fear to love. Take a moment to reflect. When was the last time you extended loving kindness to yourself? Many of us are our own harshest critics. We hold ourselves to impossible standards, and when we fall short, we often respond with judgment or self-loathing. Buddhism teaches us that self-compassion is essential for cultivating a positive mindset. Just as we would comfort a friend in times of hardship, we must learn to comfort ourselves with kindness. This self-compassion provides the emotional foundation we need to extend love to others. Self-compassion is not about indulging in our weaknesses, but about acknowledging them without judgment, understanding that we, like everyone else, are a work in progress. By practicing self-compassion, we create a space within ourselves where healing can occur, and from that space, we are able to share compassion with others. But compassion and loving kindness are not merely personal practices, they extend outward into our relationships with others. Buddhism teaches that we are all interconnected. The suffering of one is the suffering of all, and the happiness of one is the happiness of all. When we practice compassion and loving kindness, we are not only transforming ourselves but also transforming the world around us. Each act of kindness, no matter how small, ripples out and touches the lives of others, creating a cycle of positive energy. Consider the life of Martin Luther King Jr., whose commitment to love and nonviolence reshaped the history of the United States. King believed that love, even for those who oppressed others, was the only path to true freedom and justice. His words and actions, rooted in the Buddhist principles of compassion and loving kindness, continue to inspire generations of people to approach the world with a heart full of love, even in the face of adversity. When we act with compassion, we begin to see the world differently. Instead of seeing others as separate from ourselves, we begin to understand that we are all part of the same human experience. When we see someone suffering, we no longer think, that person is not like me, or, that person's problems are their own. Instead, we think, I see your pain, and I am here with you. This shift in perspective is one of the most powerful aspects of compassion and loving kindness. It helps us move away from judgment and toward understanding. We stop seeing people as enemies or competitors and start seeing them as fellow travelers on the same journey. In the process, we free ourselves from the isolation that often comes with negativity and judgment. One of the key practices in Buddhism is the metta-bhavana meditation, in which we cultivate loving kindness toward ourselves and others. We begin by wishing ourselves happiness and freedom from suffering, then extend these wishes to loved ones, acquaintances, and even those with whom we have difficulties. Over time, this practice softens the heart and opens it to love. As we move through life, we naturally begin to see the world through a lens of compassion, making it easier to respond with love, even in difficult situations. Reflect on your own life. How often do you respond to others with compassion? When faced with someone suffering, do you react with understanding and care, or do you react with judgment or indifference? Buddhism teaches us that by cultivating compassion, we break free from the cycle of negativity and create space for love and healing. Compassion and loving kindness are the keys to positive thinking. When we choose to see the world through the lens of love, we begin to transform our thoughts, our actions, and our relationships. We break free from the barriers of fear, anger, and judgment, and we create a world where kindness, understanding, and peace can thrive. The ultimate question to reflect on is, what would it look like if you approached every situation in your life with compassion and loving kindness? The transformation would be profound, not only for yourself but for everyone you encounter. In this way, positive thinking becomes not just an internal practice but a living, breathing force that shapes the world around us. 5. Transforming negative emotions, wisdom in action. In the pursuit of a positive mindset, one of the greatest challenges we face is managing negative emotions. Anger, fear, resentment, jealousy, and anxiety are emotions that arise naturally as part of the human experience. However, Buddhism teaches us that these emotions do not have to control us. We do not need to suppress them or let them dictate our actions. Instead, we can transform them through awareness, wisdom, and skillful action. Negative emotions often feel overwhelming, especially when they arise in moments of stress, conflict, or personal struggle. They can cloud our judgment and lead us to react impulsively, causing harm to ourselves and others. But Buddhism offers a powerful approach to transforming these emotions, by recognizing them for what they are, temporary mental events that can be observed and understood, rather than identified with. What happens when we experience negative emotions? Often, we tend to get caught up in the narrative that our emotions create. For example, when anger arises, we might think, I am angry, or when fear arises, I am afraid. We internalize these emotions as part of our identity. But Buddhism teaches that our emotions are not who we are. They are simply passing mental states that we can observe and choose to respond to mindfully, rather than react impulsively. Take, for example, the way Mahatma Gandhi approached his emotions in the face of adversity. Gandhi was often met with hostility and violence during India's struggle for independence. Yet, despite facing immense provocation, he responded with calmness, patience, and non-violence. Gandhi did not suppress his anger or frustration. Instead, he transformed these emotions through mindful awareness and wisdom. He chose to respond with compassion, understanding, and a commitment to non-violent action. His ability to transform negative emotions into positive actions is a reflection of the Buddhist approach to emotional mastery. In Buddhism, the practice of transforming negative emotions is often referred to as mindful observation. Rather than allowing emotions like anger or fear to take over, we are encouraged to observe them as they arise. We ask ourselves, where do I feel this emotion in my body? What thoughts are fueling this emotion? Is this emotion permanent, or is it passing? Through mindful observation, we gain distance from the emotion, allowing us to respond with wisdom rather than being swept away by reactive thoughts and feelings. Imagine a situation where you are angry at someone for an injustice. The initial reaction might be to lash out, to express your anger in a hurtful way. But through mindfulness, you pause. You acknowledge the anger, but you do not identify with it. You observe the sensation of heat in your chest or the tension in your body. You ask yourself, what is this anger teaching me? What is the deeper need or desire behind this emotion? By reflecting on the underlying causes of the emotion, you gain insight into its impermanence, and in doing so, you are no longer controlled by it. You are free to choose a response that aligns with your values, compassion, understanding, or even forgiveness. This process is not about denying or repressing our emotions. It is about transforming them through awareness and understanding. Buddhism teaches that we should never suppress negative emotions because they are part of our human nature. What we can do, however, is change our relationship with them. Instead of reacting blindly, we can choose to observe and engage with them skillfully, allowing them to be transformed into opportunities for growth and wisdom. An example of this can be seen in the life of the Dalai Lama. Throughout his life, the Dalai Lama has faced immense personal and political challenges, including the Chinese occupation of Tibet. Despite these hardships, he consistently speaks of transforming anger and resentment into compassion and understanding. He once said, "We can never obtain peace in the outer world until we make peace with ourselves." His ability to transform negative emotions into positive action is a testament to the power of mindfulness and wisdom in Buddhist practice. One of the most effective tools for transforming negative emotions is the practice of non-attachment. In Buddhism, attachment to our emotions is considered one of the root causes of suffering. When we cling to our emotions, whether positive or negative, we begin to identify with them as if they define us. The practice of non-attachment helps us see that emotions, like all things, are impermanent. They come and go, and we do not need to hold on to them. By practicing non-attachment, we can let go of the grip that negative emotions have on us, allowing them to pass freely without causing harm. For example, when sadness arises, instead of saying, "I am sad," we might say, "Sadness is arising." This small shift in language helps us detach from the emotion and see it as a temporary experience, not as something that defines us. We recognize that sadness, like joy, is impermanent, and we allow it to pass naturally. This practice of non-attachment creates a sense of freedom from the emotional turbulence that often accompanies difficult situations. Another powerful Buddhist practice for transforming negative emotions is Tonglen meditation, a Tibetan practice that involves giving and receiving. In Tonglen meditation, we visualize ourselves breathing in the suffering of others and breathing out relief, kindness, and peace. This practice helps us transform negative emotions by turning them into compassion. When we breathe in suffering, we don't become overwhelmed by it. Instead, we acknowledge the suffering and, in turn, send out healing energy and love. By practicing Tonglen, we learn to transform not only our own suffering but the suffering of others into a force for good. This practice is particularly effective when dealing with negative emotions like anger or resentment. Instead of holding on to these emotions and letting them fester, we offer them up in the meditation, turning them into compassion for ourselves and others. Tonglen teaches us that, rather than pushing away negative emotions, we can use them as a source of transformation and healing. Gratitude is another powerful antidote to negative emotions. When we feel stuck in negativity, whether it's due to anger, jealousy, or frustration, shifting our focus to what we are grateful for can shift our mental state dramatically. The simple act of reflecting on the good things in our lives can help us break free from the cycle of negative thinking. In Buddhism, gratitude is seen as an essential practice for cultivating a positive mindset. It trains the mind to focus on abundance, not scarcity. For instance, if you feel jealousy or resentment toward a colleague who received a promotion, you might take a moment to reflect on the things you are grateful for: your health, your family, your talents, the beauty around you. By practicing gratitude, you shift your focus from what is lacking to what is abundant, and in doing so, you transform negative emotions into positive energy. Ultimately, transforming negative emotions through Buddhist practices is about developing wisdom and awareness. By recognizing that emotions are impermanent and observing them with mindfulness, we free ourselves from the cycles of reactivity that often cause suffering. The practice of non-attachment, Tonglen meditation, and gratitude helps us engage with our emotions in a way that is healthy, healing, and transformative. Reflect on your own life. How often do you react impulsively to negative emotions? How can you apply mindfulness, non-attachment, or gratitude to transform those emotions into wisdom and compassion? The key to transforming negative emotions is not about avoiding them or suppressing them but about cultivating the wisdom to understand and respond to them skillfully. By doing so, we create a more peaceful, compassionate, and positive mindset that not only benefits ourselves but also the world around us. 6. Rejoicing in others' happiness, a revolutionary practice. In a world often filled with competition, comparison, and envy, the Buddhist practice of mudita, or sympathetic joy, offers a revolutionary way to cultivate a positive mindset. Mudita is the practice of rejoicing in the happiness and success of others. It may seem counterintuitive at first. How can we be truly happy for someone else's success, especially when we might feel left behind or envious? But Buddhism teaches that rejoicing in others' happiness is not only a practice of love and compassion but a profound path to personal transformation. In everyday life, it is easy to fall into the trap of comparing ourselves to others. We live in a world where social media constantly broadcasts others' successes, achievements, and milestones. It's easy to look at these moments of joy in others and feel a pang of jealousy or inadequacy. Why am I not as successful? Why don't I have what they have? These questions can plague the mind and create a cycle of negative thinking. But Buddhism offers a different perspective. Rather than seeing another person's happiness as a threat or a reminder of our own shortcomings, we can choose to see it as an opportunity to share in their joy. This is where the practice of mudita comes in. Mudita is about celebrating the happiness and successes of others without jealousy or comparison. It is the understanding that there is enough happiness, love, and success to go around. One person's joy does not diminish our own. Think about the last time a friend or colleague received good news. Perhaps they got a promotion, completed a major project, or achieved a personal goal. What was your initial reaction? Did you feel happy for them, or did you feel a sense of competition or resentment? Reflecting on our reactions is key to understanding how often we allow envy to color our perceptions. Mudita teaches us to rejoice in that person's happiness as if it were our own, knowing that their success is not a reflection of our failure. A powerful example of mudita in practice can be found in Nelson Mandela, whose remarkable ability to celebrate the successes of others, despite his own suffering, was one of the cornerstones of his leadership. Throughout his years of imprisonment, Mandela remained focused not only on his personal liberation but also on the collective liberation of his people. Upon his release, he worked tirelessly for reconciliation, focusing on the future of his nation, not on resentment or bitterness. His ability to celebrate the victories of others, particularly in the fight against apartheid, is a reflection of mudita. He understood that when one person succeeds, it elevates us all, and this perspective helped build the foundation for a more unified South Africa. In Buddhism, rejoicing in others' happiness is a practice that challenges the mindset of scarcity, the belief that there is only so much happiness or success to go around. We live in a world where we are often taught that we must compete for resources, whether it's love, wealth, recognition, or success. But mudita teaches us the opposite: happiness is not a limited resource. The joy of others can inspire our own happiness, and when we rejoice in the successes of others, we help create a world where abundance and kindness are the norm. This is particularly important in the age of social media, where comparison can feel like a constant struggle. But when we practice mudita, we shift our perspective from seeing others as competitors to seeing them as companions on this journey of life. Instead of envying their accomplishments, we embrace them and share in their joy. We become less focused on what we lack and more focused on what we can contribute to the collective happiness of the world. How does this practice of rejoicing in others' happiness actually transform our mindset? First and foremost, it shifts us away from a mindset of scarcity and towards one of abundance. We begin to recognize that there is no limit to joy and success. When someone else is happy, it doesn't take away from our happiness, it adds to the collective good. This change in perspective helps us cultivate a sense of community, interconnectedness, and love. The Dalai Lama often speaks about the power of joy and the importance of celebrating the successes of others. He teaches that when we see someone else's happiness, we should see it as a reflection of our shared humanity. When we rejoice in the happiness of others, we strengthen the bonds of connection and compassion. Instead of focusing on what we lack, we focus on what is abundant in our lives and the lives of those around us. The Dalai Lama's teachings encourage us to break free from the competitive mindset that pervades much of the world and to see the joy of others as something to celebrate, not to resent. An example of this in practice is when we experience the success of a colleague at work. How do we react when someone else receives recognition? Do we feel resentment or disappointment, or do we celebrate their accomplishment? Mudita asks us to cultivate the mindset that when one person shines, we all shine. Their success is a reminder that we are all part of the same community, and we have the opportunity to create more joy together. It is important to note that mudita does not mean denying our own feelings or pretending to be happy when we are not. It doesn't mean suppressing our feelings of envy or inadequacy. Instead, it is about acknowledging these emotions without letting them dictate our actions. By choosing to celebrate the happiness of others, we are training ourselves to respond to these feelings with compassion, not competition. It's a conscious choice to focus on the positive, to shift from a mindset of, "I don't have enough," to, "I am grateful for what I have, and I celebrate the abundance in others." As we begin to practice mudita, we notice a subtle shift within ourselves. We become less consumed by jealousy or comparison, and more focused on the joy that we can share with others. We move from a mindset of competition to one of collaboration and connection. And as we cultivate mudita, we begin to notice more opportunities for joy, both in ourselves and in the world around us. Reflect for a moment. How can you begin to practice mudita in your own life? When you hear of someone else's success or happiness, can you genuinely rejoice in it? Can you shift your perspective from one of comparison to one of celebration? By making metta a daily practice, we begin to transform not only our own mindset but also the energy we bring into the world. Each time we celebrate the success of another, we contribute to the collective joy of humanity, creating a ripple effect of kindness and positivity. In conclusion, rejoicing in others' happiness is not just a practice, it is a revolutionary act in a world often dominated by comparison and competition. By embracing metta, we transform our minds and our relationships, creating a world where joy is abundant, shared, and celebrated. When we rejoice in the happiness of others, we open our hearts and minds to the limitless possibilities of joy, connection, and love. In doing so, we not only enrich our own lives but contribute to a more compassionate, joyful world. As we close this exploration of the power of positive thinking in Buddhism, remember that transforming your thoughts is not just a philosophical exercise, it's a path to peace, wisdom, and true happiness. By practicing mindfulness, compassion, and positive thinking, you have the ability to reshape your life from the inside out. Just like Nelson Mandela, Oprah Winfrey, and countless others, you can choose to view the world through the lens of kindness, wisdom, and understanding. So, I challenge you, how will you begin to transform your thoughts today? Leave a comment and share your reflections with us. If you're ready to continue this journey towards a clearer mind and a more peaceful heart, make sure to subscribe to Serenity Path and join our growing community. Thank you for being here, and may your path be filled with peace, love, and wisdom. See you in the next video.